Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. Welcome everyone again. People are still popping in. I've posted a few things in the chat box, become a member and about where the recordings will go. And in 2 weeks, we'll have Megan back again for another workshop. She's going to do qualitative research methods on Thursday, the 7th of March. So keep an eye out on your student emails from me for registration details. Okay, that's enough for me. Thanks a lot, Megan.
Thank you, Alison. Welcome, everybody. I want to give a little bit of background on myself. Luckily, I've got this slide because you can't see me. I'm Dr. Megan Lee. I work at Bond University. I'm a senior teaching fellow there. I did my PhD at Southern Cross. I finished in June of 22. And I was there for 4 years. I did my PhD in nutritional psychiatry. So everything about food and how it impacts your mental health is my jam. If you're interested in following along with my studies and my research and all the other things that I do have a website, foodmooddoctor.org, and Food Mood Doctor on all of the socials now, which is exciting. I was very fortunate that I got an academic role directly out of my PhD, which was really rare to get. Well, everyone told me it was rare, but I just kept setting my mind to it and ended up doing that. So if anyone wants to have a look back through my socials as well, you'll see that that transformation from all the way from my honours in psychology all the way through to when I got my position at Bond. So yeah. I specialize in research methods, qualitative and quantitative. So I'm a bit of a unicorn where I have expertise in both camps. And I believe mixed methods research is the way to go these days, because you can only tell so much from the quant data without actually asking the people about their lived experience. So I'm really about using both methods to get the best picture. That's why I teach both the qualitative workshops and the 4 quantitative statistics workshops for the SCPA. The SCPA was one of the best things that happened to me in my degree. It's such a wonderful organisation. It's external to the university, so if you have any troubles during your postgraduate studies with your supervisors or with other things, they're a really good sounding board because they're not mixed in with all of the politics that are happening inside the university. So it's just an amazing place and amazing people. So tell all your friends to sign up if you haven't already.
Thanks, Megan.
That's all right.
Great.
So today we are looking at systematic searching for postgraduate studies. And one of the things that I like to teach people is all of the little tips and tricks that I learned along the way during my PhD that I sat back and thought, man, I wish someone had taught me that earlier in my degree. And for that reason, I actually teach this to my undergrad students now as well. Now, this method or system of systematic searching is commonly mostly used when doing systematic reviews or meta-analyses. But I truly believe that you should be systematic searching for literature whenever you're looking at any topic. So today I'll be showing you how to do systematic searching for the types of things that you're doing that's outside of systematic reviews, but I'll mention along the way how it's a little bit different or similar to that as we go. Right. So what I might do before we get started, just to find out kind of where everybody is. I know there's 30 of us at the moment. But if you want to just put your microphone on and just tell me what degree you're doing, whether you're a master's or a PhD student, what your topic is, and whereabouts in the world you are, because I know that Southern Cross is all over Australia now. You don't have to be on campus or in the areas that campus is. So we might start. Ellie.
I'm in Bellingen near Coffs Harbour, and I'm a psychology student.
Oh, great. Excellent. And what degree in psychology? Your undergrad or honors?
Undergrad, yeah. So I'm doing my honours. So I'm just waiting for
Amazing.
my thesis.
And what's your topic?
I think I might do auditory selective attention. So, the something along those lines. I don't know yet.
Very cool, very cool. Well, this workshop is super helpful for undergrad and honors as well. So anyone who is also not postgraduate, it is just as useful. Thanks, Ellie. What about Adam?
Good morning, Megan. Adam here. I'm from Brizzy. I'll be travelling down to the Gold Coast to study honours in psych, and I'm doing it part-time, so I don't have to think about my thesis or my area of study until next year.
Nice. At least you're getting in front of the studies and learning all of the little bits and pieces before you get started again.
Trying to get less unprepared.
Carla.
Oh God.
I think you turned your microphone off just now. Carla. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I'm in Dalby, rural Queensland, and I'm doing a grad cert in diabetes education because I'm already a RN and a midwife. That's it.
Amazing. Thank you. Karen Phillips says here in Lake Macquarie, New South Wales, doing a PhD in health. Kevin, Perth, not doing PhD or honours, grad cert in diabetes for me. Cool. Bebby is enrolled in masters. What about Dorian?
Hi, I'm in Griffith, rural New South Wales, and I've enrolled for Masters in Business Law.
Nice. Massam.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
Hello, Massam. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing my PhD in health science, and my topic is health promotion needs of people with refugee-like backgrounds in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm halfway up my PhD. My in-candidature review is approaching on May.
Nice.
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm just waiting for ethics approval announcement. So yeah, and I'm also preparing for the second ethics for the second study. And I submitted my first paper of systematic review on health promotion needs in a journal just a couple of weeks before.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Very good. Nat Garmson says grad cert mental health post-master's level from Perth. Natalie, I'm doing a Doctor of Ed and am at data collection stage, researching Indigenous education. Very cool. Rianne, Honours Psych SEU in Coolangatta at the Gold Coast campus. What about Ronnie?
I'm actually doing a Master of Mental Health with no undergrad in health, so it's a little bit challenging for me, and that's online, but I do live on the Gold Coast. And yeah, just mentioning, I do have ADHD, so getting organised and using, yeah, hopefully all of your information will help me a lot, I'd say.
Oh, having systems in place are excellent. And this is exactly why I teach this, because I was the same. I really need focus and systems. So this will be great for you.
Thank
Alexandra.
Yeah, hello. I'm in Canberra. I'm doing psych honours through SEU. I got a little scholarship last year to do a systematic review on cannabis medicine with the National Centre for Naturopathic Medicine, because my background's in naturopathy. And it was like,
Yeah.
so freaky to dive in as an undergrad to EndNote and Covidence and all of this stuff, right? So I'm really hoping that this workshop can just give me some beautiful steps to help with my honours year this year. And my topic area is attributions of meaning after insight experiences with psychedelics and meditation.
Very cool. Greg says, hello everyone, I'm near Mullumbimby on Widgeable, Bundjalung country, doing a PhD on how story is part of looking after the forest side by side. Hi Greg, I'm also in Bundjalung country. I'm in Murwillumbah right now, so under the Mount Wollumbin. Nan, I am based in Brisbane, starting my second master's degree, Masters of Teaching. I completed my Master of Arts in 2017. Excellent. Anuradha?
I'm doing Masters by Research. I'm from the business faculty in Gold Coast. I just joined in December, so my topic, it lines with the concept of traceability in sustainable supply chain and how the role of technology plays in it. I'm from the industry, so I'm quite new to the academia. So hopefully, I can grasp everything what you say today. Thank you.
You will be able to, definitely. Courtney, I'm also on Bundjalung country in Mullumbimby doing my PhD on mental health in elite sport. Excellent. What about Benyajan? No? Anyone else? Who have I missed?
Yeah, I haven't introduced myself yet there.
Sure. Hi, Amanda.
I am located in Coffs Harbour at Southern Cross University. I'm studying my honours year in psychology this year, taking it part-time. I'm also a committee member of the Southern Cross University Coffs Harbour Students Association and special interest in eating disorders, body image, trauma and addiction. So I guess my own experience in the fitness industry, my personal journey with body image has really honed my passion for supporting people to create healthy relationships with eating and exercise. I'm also an ambassador for the body image movement. So part of so I brought Embrace to Coffs Harbour when it came out, and you're probably familiar with that documentary film.
Yeah, I work with Zali Yeager and Taryn Bromford myself.
Yeah, came out in 2017, and last year I brought Embrace Kids to Coffs Harbour.
Blah, blah, blah.
Was a guest speaker at my screening. So I'm an ambassador for the body image movement. So part of my role there is like raising awareness of the dangers of dieting and the thinners in ideal. And I really come health at every size approach and a non-diet, body neutral approach when working with people with food, body and exercise.
That's very cool. I did my honours project myself in body image in the postpartum, and now I work in collaboration with Karina Burke at Central Queensland University in all things body image in mums. And that's why Zali Yeager and Taryn Bromford and I have worked together on Embrace Kids and looking at, because everything in child and adolescent body image all stems from kind of what they hear in the home. When we say mean things about ourselves, our children hear that. So yeah, very, very cool. Excellent.
You just check your socials and I was already following them. So there you go.
Jen is in Wiradjuri country, Central West, New South Wales. She's doing honours, looking into pro-resilient behaviours and place attachment in relationship to land stewardship. Wow. Karen, her PhD is on counsellors' perception of using hypnotherapy in their practice. Cass, I'm doing my PhD in social prescribing of permaculture for people with mental illness on Yagle country in the Clarence. Amanda from the Gold Coast, and I'm following a master's by thesis degree. My research focuses on behavioural impact of artificial intelligence. That's very cool. I am based, Nan is based in Brisbane, studying second masters. We talked about that. Excellent. Anyone else who we've missed who would like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I'm Lynn. I'm in
Hi.
Melbourne, Victoria, and I can't believe I'm studying again. I'm doing a postgrad in diabetes education. I'm a registered nurse working. I actually teach at uni undergraduate nursing students, and I work in remote Aboriginal communities clinically in the Northern Territory. So diabetes is so prevalent, and I'd like to do it, but I haven't studied since 2015. So yes, I need this, please.
This will help then. Excellent. I'll try. I definitely keep everything kind of very base language, plain English summaries of things. I don't like to throw scientific jargon at people. So yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent, Lynn. So it's for all levels. Anyone else would like to introduce themselves before we move on?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Oops. Hi.
Oh, hi. Sorry if you heard me say blur blur. It's because I've got another tab open. I'm trying to pay for something and it's not working out. Yeah, so sorry about that. My name's Nicole. I'm doing my first master's at the Gold Coast in naturopathic medicine. So I'm a registered nurse currently, and yeah, I've just always been interested in natural therapies. And yeah, decided to jump in this year and start at Southern Cross. So I'm really excited, but I'm nervous because obviously I've never done a master's, and I'm just trying to take as much free information as I can. So that's why I've signed up for today.
Excellent. It seems like everybody's in the right place.
Awesome.
Anyone else like to introduce themselves?
Yes, it's me. So my name is Jean Page. I'm in the Faculty of Science, and I'm doing my honours with Southern Cross, and my topic is tongue-tied. I'm evaluating the antifungal effects of tea tree oil in controlling powdery mildew, which is a fungal pathogen that affects a lot of our crops. Basically to reduce all the synthetic chemical loads that gets released into the environment, and also not good for our health and so forth. So yeah, very busy.
Amazing, Jean.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I'm glad Jean spoke up. My name's Kirsten. I'm also in Faculty of Science, and I was beginning to think that we might be the unicorns. I'm just finishing off my PhD at the moment, about to submit. So I wanted to come across, and I know how I did my lit review for my thesis, but yeah, keen to hear about. I suspect that it's different across different faculties. So about to head out in the big bad world. But yeah, my topic was I'm in entomology, so the space of integrated pest management, which looks at ways of reducing insecticide use on our crops, so removing insecticides from the foods that we eat.
Amazing. I love all that. I'm very much I do a lot of work in plant-based diet and mental health, and since I've been doing my research in that, I've become very, very interested in like agriculture and like pesticide use and all of the different things that go on that you like have no idea is in our food system. Like
I've got a paper coming out in the next couple of weeks that I've published into an international journal, which actually is starting to expose some of the practices that do go on that no one talks about. So yeah.
Well, congratulations. Amazing.
So yes, there's stuff that happens that you guys don't know about yet.
Oh, definitely. I watched Seaspiracy the other night. I was like, like we're so blinded to everything that goes on in our food system. It's one of the main things that I think about when I do my research. Thank you, Kristen. Pat, I'm in Brisbane doing psych honours at Cooley. We'll be bumming a lift with Adam, who you heard from earlier. Interested in addictive behaviours and disorders, and on a different spectrum, positive ageing. I love that positive ageing one. One of the PhD students that I did my PhD with, Sally Gregory, did hers in active ageing in women who dive, yeah, scuba dive, not skydive. Alana doing Masters of Teaching Primary, working as a speech pathology assistant, but more recently have been a literacy tutor specialist on the Gold Coast. Very, very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, we better get moving on the actual content. I love talking to everybody and finding out all of the diverse things that are going on. Alexander started his undergrad psych degree age 50. 50 is a new 20. I agree. As a 43-year-old, I would love to think that I'm 13 now. Yes, turn back the time. Right, off we go. So what we will cover today. So we will be covering what a systematic literature search is and why they are beneficial in all research, not just for systematic reviews and meta-analyses. We'll step through the process of conducting a systematic search. Then I'll help you look at some of the software that I have come in contact with over the last 2 years, 3 years that I hadn't known about when I was in my PhD. So I did everything manually. But there's some software out there that helps streamline that systematic searching process, which is really helpful. We'll talk about how to effectively use the information from the literature you find to write your research papers. So how we use that compare and contrast. And that seems to be the most hardest part when you're writing an introduction / literature review / essay, is getting the information from the papers that you have found and collating it in a effective way so that you can use that to then go and write those large pieces of work. And I'll show you a tip that I wish that I had have known back in my undergrad that will help you do that. And then when we have some time left at the end, and it will all depend on how much of this that we get through, we will do some practice of systematic searching your actual research keywords using what we learnt today. I can share the slides with Alison. Yes, absolutely. Most definitely. So what is a systematic search? It's not enough just to go out to the literature in Google Scholar or in the library databases and type in your keywords and find all the papers that you like, because most of the time you'll miss key relevant articles, and it's the most recent ones that often get left behind. So this way of systematic searching really helps with making sure that you don't miss those key papers, and especially the keystone historical papers as well that are really, really important. So a systematic search is basically different to that. It's a systematic way of identifying the relevant research. It involves constructing a research question, and in health we use what's called PICO, or Population Intervention Comparator and Outcome, and different faculties and different industries have different ways of using PICO, and we'll go into those in a second. You identify that research question, and that's the most important part about anybody's research, is having a research question very clear in your mind. I always put post-it notes of my research question on my computer when I'm doing a literature search, so that I don't go down a rabbit hole and start following references. Oh, that's a cool reference. I'll go look at that paper. Oh, it's got a cool reference in it. And then you end up somewhere down the rabbit hole completely away from your topic. So every time you search for a paper and you read a paper, you're always going back to, is this relevant to my research question? So when we're constructing a systematic search, we're always talking about our research question and the keywords that are within that research question. And then we need to know our inclusion-exclusion criteria, and that'll make more sense in a second when we get to that. It shows you where to look and how to search effectively using the Southern Cross University library databases rather than Google Scholar or just the general library search. As I said before, systematic searching is normally only used when conducting systematic reviews or literature reviews and meta-analyses, but I suggest that you should use this anytime you write any form of introduction, literature review, or essay. So this is the process, and we'll go back to this once we've done the process. This slide is in here twice so that we can do a bit of a summary of the process as well. So the process is develop your research question. It is the most important part of your systematic search because it guides every other level underneath it. So we need to know who our population is that we're looking into, what our intervention is, or what is the variables of interest that we're interested in. What are we comparing that to? And what our outcome is. What are we looking for the outcome in? And we'll get to PICO more as we go through. The next step is identifying synonyms and related terms to those keywords in your research question. And we'll do a practical example doing plant-based diet and depressive symptoms, because that's what I know best, in a moment. You then identify your databases that are relevant for your search, and I'll show each of you the specific databases for your area. So science has different databases to health, to psychology, to education. So I'll show you all which ones are the best for your particular area of research. Then you use what's called truncation and Boolean operators to broaden and narrow your search, because sometimes we do a search and we get tens of thousands of papers, and that's not useful because we don't want to troll through all of those to find the relevant data. So I'll show you how to narrow your search if that happens, so that you get a couple of hundred is a good amount to find. And sometimes when you do a search, you get like 2 papers. So then I'll show you also how to broaden your search terms to get more data. Then you identify your inclusion exclusion criteria, and that will form like what sort of time frame are you looking at? Are you just looking at papers in the last 10 years? Are you looking at papers from a certain date? Are you looking at papers from inception, so the very start of when that area was studied? And that will all depend on technology and what's happening in the world. So I know my friend did her PhD on the use of iPads in early childcare centres, and her literature search had to start kind of around the time where social or technology and iPads were starting to be used. So we didn't want to look beyond that time. So she had to go and find that key date and do her search from there. So other inclusion exclusion criteria are language, like if you are unable to read or interpret papers outside of English, that's an inclusion exclusion criteria. Age can be an exclusion criteria. Gender, it just all depends on your research question, and we'll go into that in a moment. Then the next step after that is sorting and storing the literature in the most effective way, so you don't have hundreds of papers and don't know what to do with them. So I'll show you how to do that. And then I'll show you how to use a data extraction table to sort your literature in a way where you can use that to then compare and contrast in your write-up. Any questions about the process before we go into them in more detail? Great, excellent. We are doing well so far. So let's start with that first step, the research question. So as I said, in health and in psychology, we use PICO, where we first identify who the population of interest is. Now I'm going to, for this workshop, I'm going to be using my current research question. So whether or not plant-based dietary followers who have high or low diet quality have increased or decreased depressive symptoms, right? So we're talking about population. So in that case, who is my population?
People on a plant-based diet.
Right, people who have a plant-based diet, that's my population. So that's a pretty easy one, right? But when you get into the more health style research questions, you may have patients, and some other areas like very science or like very science type areas might not have a population, or the population might not be people. It might be things like starfish or microalgae. But it could also be the problem that is posed. And that's sometimes useful for those of you who are doing qualitative research. Now, qualitative research involves going out into the world and either observing people or asking people about how they feel or their experiences in interviews and focus groups, things like that. And usually in qualitative research, you don't have hypotheses in the same way that you do in the numbers-based quantitative research. So usually in qualitative research, you might have a population, you might have a problem. If you feel like you have a research question that doesn't have a population, your population is probably the general population or everybody. So that's quite common as well. The next thing is to identify in our research question our intervention or our exposure. So in my plant-based diet quality example, what is the intervention, do you think? I think I've got slides here of them. Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. So what do we think the intervention might be? So we're looking at plant-based dietary followers with low or high quality diet and depressive symptoms. Right, Alexandra, the diet. So which of the diets do you think is the intervention and which is the comparison diet? Feel free to type your answers. It could be plant-based intervention compared to standard diet, and it all depends on your research question, right? So if we were going to do an experimental study with plant-based dietary followers, we could put half on a high quality diet and we could let the rest of them stay on their usual standard Western style diet. Or if we were going to do, say, survey research, we could just do a food frequency questionnaire, ask everybody who's on a plant-based diet, questions about their diet, and then score them on high and low diet quality. So your PICO really depends on what your research question is. But you're right, intervention is high quality diet, comparison is low quality diet in this example. Again, you might not have a comparator. The comparator might be just everybody else or the usual or the standard or whatever is happening in the real world as it stands. So sometimes you won't have a comparator. And then what's our outcome in my example? What are we trying to measure the change in? Mental health outcomes, good. So depression, anxiety, stress scores, we could. Depression symptoms, in this case, it is depressive symptoms. And you could use the DAS to look at that. You could use the Centre of Epidemiological Studies of Depression, self-report scores. So this is the typical way of doing things in health and psychology. But in other fields, we also have these different frameworks. So we've got Eclipse, which is expectation, client group, location, impact, professionals, service, which is focused on health policy information. Or we've got sample, phenomenon of interest, design, evaluation, research type, which is more along the lines of qualitative and mixed methods research. And then we've got SPICE, which is setting, perspective, or population, intervention, comparison, evaluation. Great. So you usually use your PICO to develop your research question. And it's kind of important to have each of the elements of your PICO in your research question. So in the example that we used, our population was plant-based dietary followers. Our intervention was high diet quality. Our comparator was low diet quality. And our outcome was depression. And then we can structure our research question along the lines of those elements of our PICO. So what is the association between high quality diet compared to a low quality diet in plant-based dietary followers experiencing the symptoms of depression? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you, if you can, to create a PICO and a research question for your research or one of the arms of the research that you're doing. So for the next maybe 5 minutes, sit down, try and do PICO, or if you can't do PICO, one of the other frameworks is fine. Keeping in mind that you may not have a comparator, you might not even have a population. So let's see if we can get as close as we can to this PICO for our studies. And we'll come back at like 12 past in 5 minutes, and I'll see how we all went. We'll take it back to this one so that we can, maybe this one will be most helpful. All right, let's see how we went. Does anyone want to share their PICO and their research question?
Yes, I'll have a go. Hang on
Hi,
a second.
Bryony, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Sorry, I was late in. I've been training, so I'm
That's
sort
okay.
of juggling work.
No worries.
Yeah, I work in the disability sector, so I'm actually interested to do some research around whether the utilisation, and I have put down EFT specifically, but whether the utilisation of sessions will address workplace stresses, obviously using a particular mechanism, and what impact that has on disability support workers, and will it result in increased job satisfaction and higher overall productivity? There's a lot of stuff in there.
Okay.
But I believe my population is disability support workers.
Good.
The intervention will be the use of EFT or whichever intervention that
When we
is
say
chosen.
EFT, do we mean emotional freedom technique?
Yeah.
Do you know who I work with?
Yes, I've reached out to Dr. Peter. Yes, and we studied her and her journey and her work. I'm at Southern Cross University, so we studied her in my last term, and I'm fascinated by it.
She's amazing.
And in actual fact, one of the ladies who's doing her PhD is my tutor, so I'm kind of connected with a couple of people.
Very cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so population is disability support workers. What's your intervention? EFT?
Use of EFT, if that's, or whether it's CBT or something else. Comparison is if there is no intervention used.
Okay, so it's EFT versus no comparison.
Yeah, and the outcome is increased job satisfaction.
Amazing, amazing. You know that Peter's currently doing a EFT trial, randomized control trial on using EFT to improve your eyesight.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Emotional freedom technique, for those of you who do not know, is you tap on the areas of your face and body where your pressure points are. And Peter has done all this amazing work, and it's all super scientifically, rigorously showing that EFT actually reduces depression, increases mood, reduces cravings. So Alana, who was talking about body image, EFT is a really amazing thing for that field of research, disordered eating, eating disorders, things like that. Peter's full name is Dr. Peter Stapleton. She's at Bond University, and she's like one of the most lovely people you've ever met in your whole life also. So she's just a super genuine, very cool. Yeah, and the eyesight thing, amazing. Okay, we got off track. That's okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Bryony. Anyone else want to share their PICO and their research question?
I will.
Thanks,
'cause
Lynn.
I'm at the other end. So my population is Indigenous women living in remote communities, and I'd probably put an age on that. My intervention is having 2 weekly education sessions on the importance of taking their diabetic medication.
Cool. So in the interventions, education, diabetes education sessions. Good.
Yes. And my I'm not doing this, I just made up.
That's okay.
And my comparison is the women who have no education sessions.
Right. Good.
And I'm looking to see whether their HbA1c, I won't explain that, but it's a measure of their management of diabetes over time, and management and medication is altered according to that. But so whether their HbA1c does actually improve in a period of 6 to 12 months, for example.
Okay, so if that's your PICO, do you want to put it all together in a research question for me?
Yeah, so what is the effect of women between the ages of 20 and 50 living in remote Aboriginal communities, attending 2 education sessions on what their the importance of taking their diabetes medication and the effect on their HbA1c in 6 months' time.
Amazing. Excellent. Thank you so much, Lynn. That's perfect.
Okay, thanks.
100% gold star.
Thank you.
We've got Natalie here who's doing qualitative analysis. So this is really cool. Her population is Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. The interest is their gap in educational outcomes. The context is vocational education and training. So the research question is how vocational education and training programs might include Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices and worldviews to enable greater success in terms of completion, participation, and pathways. Very good. So as you can see, when we do a qualitative research, it's a little bit different to our quantitative research, but the same structure can help get into that research question, and that was very, very well done.
Hi, can I share mine?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. So my question is, what is the results of including regular swimming in or with asthma sufferers compared to those who don't swim or don't swim regularly, to the effects of it in improving respiratory function?
Cool.
So the population is asthma sufferers,
Good.
and the intervention is swimming regularly. Comparison is those who don't swim at all or swim less regularly without a particular schedule. And the outcome, improvements in respiratory function.
Excellent. Perfect.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
You guys have got this. Does someone who's in science want to share? Someone
Hello,
who's
may I
at the population.
I'm in education.
Yeah, education, go for it.
Wonderful, thanks. So I'm not actually a teacher yet. So I know this has already been explored. However, it's in my realm. The population's teachers and tutors and speech pathologists, the intervention is evidence-based literacy, such as synthetic phonics. The comparison would be whole or balanced literacy programs, and the outcome would be measurable literacy growth in children who have fallen behind or experienced learning difficulties.
Very cool. Do you want to throw it into a research question for me?
Yes, so I started with does or do. Do children who experience literacy concerns improve with evidence-based literacy programs compared to those utilising whole or balanced literacy programs?
Perfect. Good job.
Is that right?
Yeah, it sounds right to me.
Good-o. Wonderful. Thank you.
Karen has here, her PICO is the population is perception of using hypnosis. So, oh, that's not population, that's, let me have a look. It'd be more along the lines of problem, potentially. Right. So, perception of using hypnosis, intervention, how they use it, what they use it for when they use hypnosis, comparator, compare client outcomes using talk therapy versus hypnosis intervention, and outcome, success of client session response, changing client overall job satisfaction for counsellor. There is a lot going on in there. So this is a really good point. There might be more than one PICO and more than one research question in there. So yeah, keeping the PICO like 1 or 2 words and really delving into there. It's very, very interesting, Karen, but you might want to look at breaking it into some sub-research questions, having your main research question and then your sub-research questions. We've got more qualitative analysis from Dorian in legal governance field. Research question in ASX 200 companies. What is the impact of shareholder value of adopting a recognized governance framework? That's really cool. Excellent. Does anyone in science who doesn't have a population want to share? No, that's okay. Let's move on. So the next thing that we do once we have our PICO, which are our keywords that are in our research question, we then want to think about what are some of the synonyms that we can think of that relate to those areas. So the population intervention comparison and outcome. And the reason it's really important to do this before you start doing your literature search, because you want to have everything set up so that when you get into the databases, you know exactly what you're going to put in there. And at this stage, I would have a Word document with my PICO, my keywords for my PICO, my research question at the top, and then I would start writing some synonyms. So in this table, we've got our population is patients undergoing abdominal surgery. So we would be looking at abdominal surgery or post-operative or recovery to find the most amount of papers that have similar wording but not exactly the same to your PICO. If the intervention is chewing gum, you would write chewing gum or gum. The comparisons, those who are not eating chewing gum, and then your outcome is effects on post-operative ileus. So you have post-operative ileus, paralytic ileus, or ileus. So for those of you and me who are not very up with abdominal surgery, maybe using my PICO might help with more relatability. So what are the synonyms for our plant-based dietary pattern and depressive symptom example? So our population was, what was our population?
Those on, sorry.
Go, Ronnie.
I was just going to say, those on a plant-based diet, or
good plant-based dietary followers. So what are some other synonyms that might be out there in the literature for plant-based dietary followers? And I know myself that I use these terms, so they're definitely out there. Vegans, vegetarians, what else?
Non-meat eaters.
No meat, that's a very good point. What else?
Clean eating? Maybe not.
Maybe not, because I think you can be a clean eater and eat meat.
Yeah.
Okay. Fruitarian, herbivorous. That's very good. What other types? Alexandra is carnivore. It's super clean. Pescatarian's a good one. In our studies, we also use flexitarian, which is interesting because flexitarians actually eat meat. And this is very contentious that are they or are they not included in vegetarian and vegan plant-based dietary followers? Something to think about. Interestingly, when we do our research on them and we include them or disinclude them from plant-based diets, it doesn't affect our data at all when we do like sensitivity testing on it. Elimination diets. Certain elimination diets would be included if they eliminate meat. Surely it would depend on what your outcome is. So what is our outcome? There's a good question. Does anyone remember what the outcome was? We've jumped ahead, but that's okay. Mental health improvement, yes. Improving depressive symptoms. So what are some other synonyms or some other words out there in the literature that might be used for depressive symptoms?
Feeling sad and lonely.
Sadness, yeah, good.
just depression on its own?
Depression on its own, very good, Ronnie. What else?
What about suicidal? Is that getting off track?
Yeah, I would throw that in. Although suicidal is a different thing to depression. It's commonly comorbid. Rianne's got a good one. Mood, low affect. These are all very good.
And low energy.
Potentially, yeah. Good. So what was our intervention?
Plant-based food.
Not quite. Close. What were we comparing? High quality plant-based diet. versus low quality plant-based diet. Good. So what other words could we use there for diet? Or would we want to look up that we wouldn't want to miss? Nutrient density. Lifestyle, maybe not so much, because lifestyle is everything external to diet as well. So no, we're not comparing meat or omnivore. We're comparing plant-based dietary followers. They're our population, and whether or not they eat a high quality diet or a low quality diet. Processed, that's good, Colleen. So that's our comparison. That's our low quality diet. Now at this stage, I would highly recommend booking an appointment with the SCU librarians. And when I did my PhD, every time I did a literature search like this, I got the librarians in, and they are like wizards at coming up with synonyms. They're so good at it. They think of things that you wouldn't even think of that you might miss. So definitely every time at this stage, book in with the librarian and they will go through your keywords. Oreos and Doritos are 60% of the calorie intake. Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to find out. All right, so you get the idea. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to come up with our synonyms and related terms. The next thing that we want to do is we want to identify the relevant databases. So for health, we have PubMed, PsycInfo, CINAHL, Medline, and Scopus are the best ones. In education, you've got Academic Search Premier, Education Research Complete, ERIC, and Teacher Reference Center. Interestingly, these are all EBSCO databases, and I'll show you in a moment. I'll give you a live example of doing a literature search and in these EBSCO databases, and I'll show you the little trick that I learned when I was at SCU of how to do them all together instead of having to do them separately, which saved me so much time. In business, you've got Business Source, Premier, ProQuest, Emerald, and in law, you've got ICLR, Lexis, and Westlaw. So each of the areas have their different databases that are the best for searching. And I'll show you that in a moment when we get into there. Now, once you've got your synonyms and your keywords that you want to do, you need to use truncation and Boolean operators to link them. So we use truncation to avoid having to think of and having to type out all the variations of a word. So when we're looking at diet, if we put an asterisk behind diet, it will include all your words in your search for diets, dietary, dieting. So you don't have to keep writing these words over and over. Same with depression. So if we put in the letters D, P-R-E-S, and a asterisk, it will include all of those words: depression, depressive, depressed, depress. You can use the asterisk in the middle of a word as well. So if you want to get all of the literature that has the word color in it, but you want it to give you papers in American and English spelling, if you put the asterisk in the middle, it will come up with all of those different ways of spelling color. If you've got more than one word, it should be surrounded by quotation marks. Otherwise, it will search both of the words instead of considering the one word together. So I commonly use the word dietary pattern, and I want it to be one word, searched as one word. So I'll put quotation marks around that to keep it together in the search string. And then same with the word meta-analysis. So if I wanted to look at meta-analyses, if I put an asterisk in the middle and at the end, it will include meta-analysis spelt with a dash and without, and it will also give me meta-analysis or meta-analyses, so more than one or one meta-analysis. And then our Boolean operators tells the database searching what we want to do. So if we are looking at, we want papers with the words dietary pattern or Mediterranean diet or Western diet or healthy diet or unhealthy diet. And we also want all the papers that have those and the words depression, depressive, anhedonia, melancholy. So we use these Boolean operators to tell the search engine exactly what we want to find. So we want to find a paper with potentially these words and these words together. Now, finally, before we get into the actual live example of doing this, our inclusion-exclusion criteria are really important to have set up before we go and do the actual searching. So you want to make sure that you know what age range the population is that is of interest. Now, I think Ronnie was saying that her age range, you wanted to bring your age range in or out, or was that Lynn? I think it might have been Lynn talking about the age range. Adam, I wish I knew this in undergrad. So did I.
Yeah. Thanks. Yep.
So Lynn, your example was Indigenous Australians of a certain age range, right?
That's right.
So in your inclusion-exclusion criteria, you'd want to write down, okay, this is the age range I'm interested in. I'm interested in adults, or I'm interested in adolescents, or I'm interested in children. How long in time do you want to look at the recency of the literature? Now, as I said before, this can be important if technology has changed or there's been a big change in your field at a specific time, and the research question really adheres to that change that happened. You want to start searching your literature from there. I usually do from inception, which means from the beginning of when the research was ever started to now. You want to make sure if you want to determine whether or not you want human or animal studies, so you can make a decision there, and where. So Indigenous Australians will always be a geographical location of Australia. So you want to make sure that the inclusion-exclusion criteria include only Indigenous Australians rather than, and I know we did this in class this week where we looked at Indigenous, what topic were we looking at? Oh, we're looking at mental health issues that are experienced by Indigenous Australians. And when we looked in the literature, it brought up a heap about Indigenous Canadians, and that wasn't relevant to what our students were looking at. So that's very important, that you want to make sure that it doesn't throw that up. Papers written in English, if you can read other languages or you have an interpreting software program, you don't have to do that. What type of study? So are you interested in only randomized control trials? Are you interested in only bringing up observational studies or cross-sectional studies? Are you interested in qualitative and quantitative data? Are you interested only in systematic reviews of things? That's very important to have in your inclusion-exclusion criteria before you begin doing your search. And then, are you interested in the peer-reviewed articles only and evidence-based literature? Or are you also interested in grey literature and government documents and what's out there that is external to that evidence-based peer-reviewed literature? So they're all the questions that you want to ask yourself before you start your search, so that when you go, once you've completed your search and you start including and excluding papers, that you can use your inclusion-exclusion criteria that you formatted before to guide you on which papers are suitable and which ones are not suitable. Right. Any questions on the process before we actually do a live version of the literature search?
I have a question that's rummaging around in my head, if you don't mind, Megan.
Yeah.
There's obviously a point where before you even start all of these search terms, that you need to actually have an understanding of the topic at some depth already, so you can come up with this system. How do you know when to kind of cut off the kind of vague research to find your research question and then head into the more structured and systematic research searching?
That's a really good question. And this is why I said, after you've done your PICO and your research question, even if you have zero knowledge of the topic at all, go to the librarians, because the librarians at SCU are particular to each faculty, and they already know a lot about everything. That's their skill, that's their superpower. But I've had students who have gone and done honours, or have done started their PhD, their masters, and had a really kind of vague idea of the literature and not known anything, done their PICO, done their research question, gone to the librarians, and the librarians have sat down and guided their search terms and their synonyms and their inclusion exclusion criteria, and gone out and done this literature search, and that's how they've started. So even if you have zero knowledge of the field, this can be useful. Good question. No worries. Do I cover mesh and similar heading searches? Yes. Are they more valuable? They can be. Do they have a specific place in searching lit? I would use mesh, and mesh is just and you'll see it in a second when I do the live example. Mesh is the search engine throws up suggestions. So if you don't have the ability to go and see the librarians, mesh is the next best thing in advising on synonyms. But it's not foolproof. But it's better than nothing, if you know what I mean. The librarians are best, mesh is second, and then your limited knowledge is, especially if you don't know the literature very well yet, is next. Mesh is built into the search bars. Let's go in and do a live example, and more of this will become clear when we do that. Right, so what I'm going to share my screen with SCU library. So tell me when you see it. I'm going to try and get it up there. Okay, let's see. Share my screen. Bronze library. Share. Okay.
Got it.
It's there. Good stuff. All right. So this is the library at Southern Cross University. It's actually better than the Bond University library. Don't tell Bond I said that. Because they have this special area in EBSCO that Bond doesn't have. So I always use SCU when I do my literature searching. I don't ever use Bond. So the special area is in the library, you go to databases, and feel free to bring the library up on your computer if you want to like follow along and practice what we're doing. We go to databases, and I'm going to give you hopefully we have time to do some practical examples with your own research. Now we want to go to E for EBSCO. Now the reason for this is because EBSCO holds a lot of databases within it, and it's got like a special function in SCU where you can do them all together. At Bond and at other universities, you have to do each database separately. So you have to do PsycInfo, CINAHL, Scopus, and you have to put your search terms into each of the databases separately. But this amazing function, and I hope it still works, it should do, I checked it yesterday, lets us do it all together. So log in to the database, the EBSCO database. And here we have all of the databases that EBSCO overlooks. So Academic Search Premier, that is education. Our research question is health and psychology. So we would be looking more along, ooh, that one's cool, the Allied and Complementary Medicine database. I'll click that one. Art and Architecture. CINAHL is really good. It's a nursing and allied health journal. Computers and Applied Science. EconLit is the American Economic Association. Education Research is education. Engineering. ERIC is education. Greenfile is human impact on the environment. That's cool. Health Business Elite is more of your healthcare administration stuff. Health source is consumer health, nursing and academics, hospitality, humanities. Medline's important for psych, so we'll click that one. Music, psych articles, that's psychology. Psychology and behavioral sciences is psychology. Psych info is psychology. Psych tests look specifically at psychological testing, so our research question doesn't really focus on that, so we'd leave that. Business, religion and philosophy, sports, education. So as you can see, all of these, you just choose the ones that are relevant to your research question. Business, and continue. So it will search all of those databases for me in this one keyword search, instead of me having to go to all 4 or 5 of those ones I just clicked separately. Massive time saver. Now, when we were talking about mesh earlier, this is what we meant. I've lost the chat box, just let me see. Just want to make sure I don't miss out on any chat. Okay, cool. So these are the advanced search boxes. Now, each of the advanced searches should really align with your population, intervention, comparator, and outcome. So each of the lines is one for each. So our first line is population. So our population was, what was our population? Testing every time, I know.
The vegans. Yeah.
Right, plant-based. Okay, so let's have a look here. So this is mesh. So when we type vegan in, the mesh headings will come up and give us examples. So they've given us veganism or vegan or vegans or plant-based. Now, you can see here that mesh doesn't actually use the truncation that we used earlier. So this is why I recommend going to the librarians rather than relying on mesh. And I'll show you, this is what we came up with for our plant-based dietary follows. So we've got plant-based. It's in quotation marks because we want the full word. It's got an asterisk in the middle, so it'll come up anytime plant-based with a dash or without a dash comes up. We've got vegan, we've got vegetarian, we've got pescatarian. We've decided not to include flexitarians this time around. Now, we want to tell the search engine that we would like to search for these terms in the abstract rather than in the full document. Otherwise, it might throw up a lot. If it doesn't throw up enough, you could bring this back to full article or all text. But you can search your terms in the title, author, that sort of stuff. Right, so that's our population. What was our intervention?
High quality,
Yeah.
high quality plant-based diet.
Right, so it was high quality versus low quality diet. So we could put our intervention and our comparator into the same box. So what have we got here? We want to tell the search engine that we also want to search for papers on plant-based diet and nutrition or diet or dietary pattern, and it's in quotation marks so it stays on word, or diet quality, or the Mediterranean diet with an asterisk, so that'll bring up Mediterranean dietary pattern, Mediterranean diet, Mediterranean diets, or Western diet. So the Western diet is our standard ultra-processed, low-quality diet. So that's why that's in there. So that's our intervention and our comparator. We want to look in the abstract. And then finally, what was our outcome?
Depressive symptoms.
Good. So in our final box, we want to put our outcome. So our outcome was depression or depress with the asterisk. To be honest, that depress with the asterisk will bring up depression, so it's not necessary to have both. They're there. Or psychological distress or low mood. So in doing this little search engine, we're telling EBSCO to look through those 4 or 5 databases and particularly bring up any papers that have the keywords in the abstract of plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, or pescatarian, as well as nutrition, diet, dietary pattern, diet quality, and depression, depressive symptoms, psychological distress. We can also look at the publication dates, so limiting that. I'm not going to do that. Let's look at everything that has ever been written on this. But if you wanted to, you could. I can click on, I only want peer-reviewed articles. I'm not interested in the grey literature for this research question. In English, human studies, I'm not really interested in anything that they've done on plant-based diet in mice, which is quite common in psychology. Do you click full text? Where's full text? You can. Although if you click full text and you're doing an actual systematic search for a systematic review, it might miss articles that only have abstracts that you might be able to go and find, that the databases don't actually have the full text. So that might be a bit limiting. Then you've got all the different types of things that you can bring it down to. So you've got geography, you've got gender, you've got age groups. If we were interested only in plant-based diet in the elderly or in children, then or in people who are pregnant, you could bring it down to those. There's your full text there. I think that's it for my inclusion-exclusion criteria.
Just sorry, Megan. Just
yeah, no worries.
You scroll back down. There was Boolean. Sorry. No, I think you've gone too far again. And it was ticked, but you didn't talk about it. Just back up. Where is it? There.
Yep. So because that's what we're using, that's the search term that we're using. We're using Boolean, which means the ors and the ands are your Booleans. So that's why that one's ticked.
Right. Thank you.
All right, let's search and see how many papers we get.
Sorry, Megan, can I be a pest and ask? Oh, I'm not going to be a pest. I'm just going to ask. Is the or inclusive of and in the Boolean operators?
The use of or is basically telling the search engine that you want to find papers that have either plant-based or vegan or vegetarian. The and tells the search engine that it definitely wants, it has to have a paper with plant-based and nutrition and depression. Can you see the difference? So the ors are basically saying any of these words, and the ands are saying, I want a combination of these three.
Thank you. But if there's a paper that has plant-based and vegan and vegetarian, will it pick up on those papers as well?
Absolutely.
So in logic, or and are quite separate, and you actually have right and or in a logic sentence or paragraph or whatever. So I'm just wondering if there's a subtle difference in these search engines or not.
Every search engine is different as well. So once you get into PsycInfo and Scopus, they're a bit more difficult to use. That's another reason why I like EBSCO and I like the SCU databases, because it applies this Boolean, easy to understand phrasing. Whereas when you get to the more difficult ones, it's, yeah, more tricky.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So we've done our search and we've come up with 148 papers that are on plant-based diet, nutrition, and depression, basically. However, there are some red herrings inside this 148. Not all of them are going to be about veganism, vegetarianism, and depression. So let's have a look at some of the ones that it's brought up. We're not going to look at all 148, and I'll show you what to do with them in a sec. So the first one is vegetarian diet is inversely associated with the prevalence of depression in middle-aged Middle Older Age South Asians in the United States, written by Jin in 2021. So does it have every element of our PICO? Does it have our population? So it's got vegetarian, so that's part. Does it have our intervention? So does it look at diet? Alexandra would love a tutorial on Scopus. Scopus is tricky, but I can do that. And then we've got depression. So that one meets all of our criteria. This one, vegetarian and veganism compared with mental health and cognitive outcomes, a systematic review and meta-analysis. The population is there. The intervention is diet. So that one's kind of assuming that it's about diet. It might not be about high versus low diet quality though. So it might be one that might be not, it might be excluded. And it's a systematic review. So this is why the inclusion and exclusion criteria is very important to have before you start, because you might only be interested in primary research papers. So this one would be excluded for being a secondary analysis. So it's a systematic review. Or, and like I tell all my students, when you do a literature search and you find a systematic review on your topic, it's like gold, because they've already reviewed and included all the papers on that topic. And every systematic review and meta-analysis always has a data extraction table in it, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And the data extraction table is done for you rather than you having to do it yourself. So sometimes finding a systematic review and a meta-analysis is absolute gold for your topic, because it's all there, all in one, already reviewed, already condensed. So it's pretty amazing. So let's have a look. Most of these are pretty close. This one's an association between dietary patterns and depression, an umbrella review. Again, I don't think this one actually looks at plant-based diet, so that one would be excluded. But you don't want to trawl through the EBSCO databases looking at this and excluding by title and abstract. So an easier way of doing it is sorting them into either your EndNote, if you use like a software for keeping your citations, so citation software, or into an Excel file. So I'll show you how to do that. Any questions before we move on to that?
Hello, it's Alana here.
Hi.
I inputted the same information and no results were found. I'm not too sure where I went wrong.
Exactly the same way as I did it.
Yeah.
That's
in the Allied and Complementary Medicine database.
Okay, so not in EBSCO.
Well, no, yeah, it's EBSCO host, and then searching the Allied and Complementary Medicine database.
Okay, so this is a really good point. So the Allied and Complementary Medicine database is only one of the databases that was searched in that step. So we also looked in CINAHL, Medline.
Oh, that's where I've made a mistake. Okay.
So the Allied and Complementary Medicine database actually wasn't very helpful for plant-based diet, nutrition, and depressive symptoms.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Cool. And that's
Literally
why we
got
try
nothing.
to do as many as we can, because yeah, sometimes some will come up with no results, some will come up with many results. That was a really
okay. So I've skipped that step. How would I go in? Do I hit choose databases and then I'll need to tick a couple more, won't I?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, no worries. I'll go through and do that, and hopefully I'll get the same results. All right. Thank you. Thank you for helping me find my mistake.
No worries. No worries. And if you are doing your searches and things like that happen, just flick me an email and I'll help you troubleshoot.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. All right, so to try and get these 148 papers into something that's a little bit more easier to sort, we go to page options we want to look at 50 papers at once, and then always click apply or it won't work. And then over here in share, come on, share button, work. There is a button that says add to folder. So now that we've told the database that we want to look at 50, we want to put papers 1 to 50 into the folder by clicking on that. Then you want to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. They should have this at the top of the page, EBSCO, but they do not. Next, so it'll show you the next 50 papers.
Sorry, where are you saving them? You go to share?
Share.
Yeah.
And here, add to folder.
Add to folder results. Okay, thanks.
Now you would have noticed that we originally had 148 papers. And now that we've gone to share and we're sorting them into the folder, they've removed 53 papers. Now we only have 95 left. That's because those 53 papers were duplicated across those databases, those 4 or 5 databases that we searched. So EBSCO has conveniently removed the duplicates for us. So instead of us having to troll through all those 148, it's removed them for us and then placed them. Yours didn't reduce at all. So did you go down and go to next? Go to page 2 after you put them in the folder? And then you go to share and add the final ones. Oh, I don't know why yours hasn't done that. It should do. It should remove the duplicates. Anyway, if it doesn't, we can troubleshoot that. Right, and once you've got your folder full of your 95 papers, you want to go to folder view, which is over here on the side, and it'll show you all 95 papers. Now, to get them into either EndNote or into your citation software program or into an Excel file, you can export them, all of the papers or all of the citations over here. And you can either export them here to RIS, so that's your EndNote, Zotero, EasyBib, any of your citation reference managers. Folder view is over at the side here. Over here. Oh, next one. Back one more. Over here on the right-hand side.
Great, thanks.
No worries. Oh, one more thing I want to show you before we do send them to Excel is that in Share, there's a thing down here called permalink. And if you copy and paste that and put it into your Word document that you've got your synonyms and your PICO and your research question in, and you put this directly into, copy and paste it directly into a search bar, it will always bring you back to this exact search in EBSCO. So it kind of remembers the search and all the papers and all of the inclusion criteria that you did, which is super helpful if you need to go and, if you're doing a systematic review and you need to go back and edit something that you've done in your search, and it saves you all of that, doing all of that again, which is kind of cool. All right, so let's go into folder view. And then we go export. So export's in the same kind of place where folder view was. And then you can either choose to send them to your citation software. I like to download them as a CSV into Excel and save. I've done this already, 18th of January 2023. Save as PBD dataset. Let's open that up. Yeah, So Alexandra is saying he's always told to export as RIS because then you can talk to other people not using EndNote. Yeah, you can save as RIS. That's completely fine. So here we have the papers in CSV, and all I do is remove any information that's not necessary, and it's pretty much everything except for the author name and the abstract. Oh. And the article title. So we've got the article title, who the authors are. Did I just get rid of the abstract? And then your abstract. Now, why this is helpful is because now you can use this to go through, and I'll word wrap it so that it's
your screen's still on the EBSCO page.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know why it doesn't share just the screen these days. Here we go. Okay. So it will give you the Excel file with heaps of information. Just delete everything except for the article title, the author, and the abstract. And then you can go through and, especially if you've got multiple authors, you can go through and sort your literature by reading the abstract and the title and getting rid of the ones that are important and the ones that are not important. Keeping in mind, you'll also have this in your EndNote, so you can do it in there as well if you choose. So that's a really good way of sorting and storing your literature. But, and I'll stop sharing and go back to our PowerPoint. Here we are. Lost my chat box again. There it is. Yeah, so Alexandra is saying that Covidence is the do-it-yourself version of Excel, and I'm going to show you that in a second. You don't have to load it into your EndNote now, but when you go to do your own, you can, and that's the end stage. So you just want to use either EndNote or Excel to eliminate the irrelevant literatures by title and abstract. And then you can read by full text. I sometimes do it in EndNote. But there is software that makes systematic literature searching easier. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to do a systematic review or a meta-analysis, to use Covidence. It's not so useful when you're just doing literature searches on your own because it expects there to be more than one researcher reviewing the data. So it can make that a little bit trickier. I'm sure you could probably turn off that though, turn off that element. You only just downloaded EndNote. There's another whole workshop, right? Or get your supervisor to be the other person. Absolutely, Alexandra, that's very good advice. Now, finally, once you have sorted the literature and you have all of the papers that are relevant to your population, intervention, comparator, and outcome, then you've got to think about, well, how am I going to use all of these papers to compare and contrast in a literature review or in an essay or in an introduction or in my confirmation of candidature? And this is another one of the things that I wish that I had have known much earlier than my PhD and how to use. So every time I do a literature search, every time I write any piece of work that requires me to compare and contrast the literature, I do it like this. So I pop every paper, I pop the important details of that paper into a data extraction table. And I'm happy to share a Word version of the data extraction table that I give to all of my students. So I teach my undergrads this, I teach my honours students this, and they all say it's one of the best things that they've ever had. So I will share this as well. So Alison, if you're still there, remind me to share this with everyone along with the slides. But in a data extraction table, you take each paper and you pull out the most important information for comparing and contrasting. So you'll pull out author, year and country first of the paper, what the research aim was, what the type of study it was. So was it quantitative? Was it qualitative? Was it cross-sectional? Was it longitudinal? The characteristics of the participants. So we usually say how many, age range, gender split, and anything else that's interesting for your research question about the participants. Then the research design. So this one's a cross-sectional study using an online survey, but a cross-sectional study could also be a survey that was given by the researcher, where the researcher read the survey out to the participants, or it could be a paper-based survey, things like that. Then what they found, and then most importantly, the limitations and the future research. And you'll always find that kind of in the second to last paragraph of every paper's discussion. And the reason that you want to put that there is because when you're comparing and contrasting your literature, by extracting this data, you can then talk to the quality of each paper. So you can see here that this paper on this cross-sectional paper by Lee et al. In Australia looked at 165 vegans and 54 vegetarians in an online survey and found that plant-based diet was associated with depressive symptoms. This is very different to a longitudinal study of 14,000 women over 25 years looking at social relationships, depressive symptoms, and diet quality, who found something different. So even just by comparing and contrasting these two papers, you can tell that the cross-sectional study, less people compared to 14,000 women. It's in a different country. It's in the States compared to in Australia. So that's also telling the reader a little bit of context about each paper. So it gives you a really good idea about giving your reader the context and the quality of your research, rather than saying this paper said this paper said this paper said this. Yes, Alexandra.
If you're investigating sort of more theoretical constructs and so on, I mean, this is wonderfully clear. You know, you can look at RCTs or you can look at longitudinal studies and things. But if you were doing something which has sort of more theoretical, foundational things, what would you recommend as your topic sorting headings?
Yeah, so what I would do is I would go and find a systematic review or a literature review done on that. And you could use what they've used in their data extraction table, or you could create your own. What are the key elements from a theoretical paper that would be important to know when you're comparing and contrasting the different papers?
Yep, thank you.
No worries. No worries at all.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool. I wasn't sure if you could hear me, sorry. Yeah, so say you're doing a topic that is that there's not much information in the field, that it's a fairly new area, and there are no systematic reviews or meta-analysis done yet. Is that something that you would mention in your literature review?
Absolutely. In fact, when that does happen, that is a great thing, because you can do the systematic review and publish it by using this exact system.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Because that's the situation with my topic I'm doing in honours this year.
That's amazing. So if you
So maybe I could do a systematic review.
You could, 100%. If there's enough papers written on the topic when you do your search and you do your data extraction and you've got enough papers, yeah, 100%.
Okay, awesome. I'll definitely mention that with my supervisor.
It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Rianne, do meta-analyses or systematic reviews provide their data extraction tables? They absolutely do. So table 1 is always the data extraction table for a systematic review, which is why they are the gold when you do find them, because someone's already done this data extraction table work for you and kind of found all of the relevant data. So if you can find a systematic review, you've kind of like leapfrogged all of this. But if you don't find one, that's also gold because you can write one. Excellent. So you use the data extraction table to write your systematic literature or your narrative review. By using that like type of study, what country it was done in, the number of participants, the type of participants and the findings, and providing context within the compare and contrast that will make your paper much more in-depth and rich than if you weren't discussing the context around the things that you are explaining. And then when you're writing your discussion, you can use that strengths and limitations section, this limitations of future research section, to say, well, this is what we found in the literature. And if you've got like 20 papers in here and you read down the column of the limitations of future research, you'll see patterns that come up of saying over and over again, this is the limitations of the field, this is what future research needs to do, and they're always usually similar. So you can say in your discussion section, after reviewing these 20 papers, it was evident that these are the limitations of the field and this is what future research needs to do. So it helps you write your discussion section as well, which is really handy. But I just find it a really easy way of being able to see all the literature together rather than having all these papers kind of everywhere. And now in technology, you don't even have papers anymore. You just have all these files on your computer and you're like, where did that paper go that I had before? And I can't seem to figure out how to look at them all together. So compiling them all into this data extraction table just can really help with that and help with framing how you're going to write your big pieces of work. And here is an example. So an example of how we use those ones in that data extraction table. So a recent cross-sectional survey, so we're talking about what type of study it is, conducted by Lee et al. On 165 vegans and 54 vegetarian Australian adults, examined the association between plant-based diet and depressive symptoms. They found that a high-quality plant-based diet was associated with decreased symptoms, while a low-quality plant-based diet was associated with increased symptoms. This was similar to, and here you see the linking to the next paper, an Australian randomised control trial of 56 adults that assessed whether changing from a low to a high-quality diet caused depressive symptoms to decrease. In this intervention study, 36% of those in the high-quality diet group were no longer classified to have depressive symptoms at the end of the 12-week trial compared to only 8% in the low-quality diet group. So even in this article, in this section, you can see, okay, so we're comparing a cross-sectional study of self-reported depression and diet to a randomized control trial where the authors manipulated the diet by giving them a high quality and a low quality diet. So you can see that that's a much higher quality study than the cross-sectional study. Even though I did the cross-sectional study, it's of a higher quality. And that's how you use that data extraction table to provide context and compare and contrast without just saying this study showed high quality plant-based diet was associated in low quality diet, and then another study said this. You've got that deeper context, which is giving your reader the ability to make their own decisions about the quality of the paper, what was done in it, and the outcomes. Any questions about the actual compare and contrast? I know I speak really fast. Feel free to email me at any time after this if you have any questions or you'd like me to clarify anything, or you try this. And Rianne, was the second study done on vegans? No, it wasn't. It was only on the general population, the JACA study, but it is a similar study that looked at high quality versus low quality diets in the general population. which found the same thing, but in across everybody rather than just plant-based dietary followers? Good question. Can I go back to the slide before? Yeah, there it is. No worries. All right. So what we might do, oh, there's another one. I didn't realize the pudding. Oh, okay. So then after we talk about the cross-sectional study and then we talk about the RCT, then we can say, however, and there's another linking statement, like the other one was similarly. This one's, however, a longitudinal study. So already you're seeing that this one might be better than the cross-sectional study, maybe not as good as the RCT, maybe as good. So our longitudinal study examining diet, depression, food security, and diet quality found that the overall quality of the diet of 14,000 American women, so the last two studies were both Australian, so now we're looking in a different population, over the past 25 years did not meet recommended national guidelines for whole grains, dairy, fibre, and surpassed upper limits for saturated fats, refined grains, salt, and sugar. This finding was contradicted. So again, now we're saying, comparing and contrasting another study by qualitative interviews of 10 women in Iran conducted by Sargent 2000 that found women reported eating the required amounts of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and rarely ate refined and ultra-processed foods. So when we compare and contrast these two studies, we're looking at a longitudinal study of 14,000 American women over 25 years, and then we're looking at an interview of 10 women in Iran who said completely different things. But the reader can make their own decision about the context of that. Well, did the women in the qualitative interviews lie about how many fruit, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes they ate and the ultra-processed food? Would it be easier to get that out of 10 women in Iran rather than 14,000 American women over 25 years? So this is why comparing and contrasting the literature is so important in this way, so we can give the reader that context for themselves to make their own decisions. We've not said here that out of these four, which one is the best quality, but it's obvious in when you read about it. So you're talking cross-sectional versus RCT versus longitudinal versus qualitative. Right, here is our process again. So I think we've only got 10 minutes left. But in that 10 minutes, maybe you could try popping your population intervention comparator and outcome into EBSCO and having a go at doing the keyword searches with your actual keywords. I'm going to pop in my email for everyone into the chat. And it's also going to be on the final slide. And I would go back and follow the slides as well, because the slides have all the instructions on them. Oh, there they all are. Right, if you want to have a go for the next 10 minutes, I'll stay here and answer any questions that pop up. If not, you are free to go.
Thank you, Megan. It's Lynn. I'll try and do it myself now offline. Thank you very much.
Okay, feel free to
Very
email
helpful.
me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ronnie. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Megan. That was really fruitful. I'm sure that's going to help everyone put their projects on good grounding.
Sure. I'll send you the recording, the slides, and the data extraction table to send
Fantastic.
around to everybody.
Okay. And I'll let everyone know. I'll disseminate them.
Yeah.
Well,
And
thanks so much for your time. Yeah.
I'll stay for the next 8 minutes and
Sure.
just in case people are still
Got some questions. Yeah.
or still doing their extraction and systematic search, and I'll answer any
Yeah,
questions.
great. Excellent.
I didn't do a break in the middle because I got real excited. So I forgot.
I was going to remind you, but then like people just duck out and have a toilet break when they need to, I guess.
Remind me next time. Say, Megan,
Oh, okay.
Stop.
I really appreciate that you can get excited about databases and exclusion criteria. Data
You should see me
extraction
when I teach.
tables.
You should
You're
see me
awesome.
when I teach data cleaning.
It's freaking brilliant. Thank you so much, and see you around the traps.
All right, see ya. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So just going through again, adding in more of the words, more of the synonyms.
Yep.
Okay, so I go to search. So I've got it more. So you go to page options. I'm just trying to find my notes that I wrote everywhere.
Yep.
Page options.
Yep.
And you go to 50.
Yep.
The
And then
50.
apply, which is down the bottom. If you don't push the apply button, it doesn't work.
Okay, go to apply.
Yeah.
Okey-doke. So then I get the same amount, right?
Yep. And then you
And
go to share.
then over to share. Yep. Hang on.
And then where it says in folder.
Add in folder. I'm just trying to find where that is.
It says
Oh, yeah, add in folder and then results.
No, just click the folder where it says 1 to 50.
I was trying to find where that is. In share. Oh, yeah, that one, results 1 to 50. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think I still have my EBSCO open.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Oh, I do. Yay. Okay. Let me just share this.
So I've got that. Now I've got to go down that because I've still got the same amount. So then I go down the bottom and go.
Yeah. And then you go down the bottom and you click on next. Next. And then it'll take you up the top and it should take your duplicates out, hopefully.
No, I got the same amount.
So how many have you got?
235.
Yeah, so you've got different to me. So that's okay. So go to share again.
Yep.
And click on results again.
Yeah.
And that'll pop those ones into the folder. And then,
but where do I put them in the folder? Because I haven't said put them into folder yet, have I?
well, you just click on that one there. Can you see what I'm doing?
Results, yes, I did that.
So you've done that. Then scroll all the way down to the bottom again.
Yeah.
You click on next.
Yeah, yes.
And then go up the top.
Up the top. Back up the top.
Go back up the top. How many have you got? Still 235?
Yep.
Right, click on share again.
Yep.
Click on results and it'll pop those ones into the folder.
Yeah. Click on results again. Yes.
Then scroll back down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Click on next.
Mm-hmm.
And then scroll back up.
Yep.
How many have you got now?
Still 235.
All right, click on results again. It'll put those ones in the folder.
Yes.
And then this should be the last one. So go back down to the bottom.
Next.
Click on next.
Uh-huh.
Come back up the top.
Ah, 160. Ah,
There
wow,
you
that took
go.
so many goes.
So yeah, because there were 160, it wanted you to put those 160 into the results folder, but it takes, because you're only able to see 50 at a time, you have to keep doing that until it removes the duplicates. And then don't forget to click on the results folder again once it's removed the duplicates to put those final ones in the folder.
Okay, where's the folder?
So where it says add to folder, click on that, click on results again.
Click on results, yeah.
Right? And then you go over to folder view, which is here.
Folder view, yep.
And then when you click on folder view, it'll take you to a page and it should say articles and there should be 160 in there.
163, but yeah, yep, 160.
Yep, perfect. And then you go over to export. Over here on the right-hand side.
Yep, got that.
And then you either choose to export them to your EndNote software if you have it.
Oh, I do, but it's just not working properly. It's wanting me to sign in and it's just being stupid.
Okay. Well, you can I send it to both my EndNote and to a CSV file to sort which ones are correct and not correct.
So I'll just do it to CSV. Yeah.
Yep. And then once it's in CSV, delete all the columns except for title, author, and abstract.
Yep, did that before.
There's heaps of useless information in it.
So when you talk about the what was it, the extraction table?
Yep.
Is that within Word document?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in a Word document and you fill that out once you've excluded all of the irrelevant papers by title and abstract. So all the ones that are relevant then go into your data extraction table and you extract the data out of it.
Okay, so now it's asking me, do I want to convert the digits with the letter E into scientific notation?
Why is it doing that?
I have no idea.
When you clicked on download CSV?
Yes. So it's just asking me to convert or not convert.
Don't convert.
That's what I'm figuring. Yeah, that's weird.
But you can play around with this process.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's good. Okay. Now I'll go through it. That's fantastic.
Send me an email if you get
so much. Oh, this was amazing. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Alison, for inviting me into the Southern Cross Postgraduate Association.
You're most welcome. It was really good. Thanks, Megan.
And is Leslie still with the SCPA?
Absolutely. She's out. Yes, both of them. Yes.
I haven't seen everyone for like 12 months.
We've got a lunch on the Gold Coast next week if you're available.
What day is that on?
Wednesday the 28th.
What time?
12 till 2.
I'll have a look at my diary.
I'll send you an invite.
Yeah, do that. That'd be great.
The info, that's a way to, I mean, Leslie won't be there, but it's a way to catch up with me and Craig, I guess. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Alison. I look forward to seeing you in a fortnight.
Absolutely. Thanks, Megan.
See you later.
Okay, bye.